one mistake and Khabib will kill him. It will be a killing on live television, guys.
It has a lot of
I don't even know why we're doing this match. Let's just end the match and let's get to Khabib versus McGregor too. Or
Ryan, you got to stop smoking crack cocaine, dude.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Nenad. Alongside me is Easy E. Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys?
Our boy, Jesse.
What's up, jabronis?
And, of course, the RKJ Man.
Hypocritical Nick. What's good, homie?
What is good? We are...
Coronavirus shit is getting real. Coronavirus shit is getting real.
We're in a really weird time, guys. We're all based in California, so we're all supposed to stay at home as long as we possibly can and
all
not
the
go outside.
we're doing, so yeah. We're doing
So,
everything we can.
But we still gotta do a podcast, of course, because there is stuff going down in the worlds of wrestling and MMA that obviously we gotta talk about. We've thanks to Skype for being available to us that we could actually get together and do a podcast under these restrictions. But yeah, I mean, guys, what the hell do we want to jump into first? Because with all these restrictions, these events with no fans, WrestleMania coming up, I mean, what do we want to talk about first? Like, we just,
WrestleMania
without fans.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, if you don't know and you're a wrestling fan, you've been living under a rock, WrestleMania is apparently going to happen for 2 nights straight on Saturday and Sunday in the first week of April, and they're going to run it with no fans at the Performance Center.
In 2 different locations, Nick, in a closed...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, one of them is going to be in a different location. I completely forgot about that.
No, there will be fans.
Or MSG. Rumors.
Look, guys, there's going to be fans. There's going to be fans. Just you wait, because there's going to be the cameraman and the outside rats. Because sometimes, there might be rats.
Rats are always on the wrestling show, man.
Some of them rats might be coming inside. They try to find shelter, something like that. It may be raining outside. So
he's talking about actual rats, Ryan. He's talking about
rats. That might be the cure to the coronavirus right there. You get you a good rat.
I think you cure the coronavirus by having the bat that infected this whole thing just bite you again, and then he's like, it takes it all out. He sucks it all out, right?
What?
I don't know. I have to come up with shit. We're all barred in. I have to watch YouTube all day. I have nothing to do.
I recommend
it. It's not that bad, man. It's not that bad for you.
It isn't that.
Just watch old NHL games or something like that.
I've actually been watching old like WWE stuff. Like I watched the Montreal Screwjob today. I watched the whole match, the whole presentation. Because I was watching Bret Hart's interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin. They started talking about it, and I'm like, I don't think I've actually ever seen this whole match, like with the entrances and the whole finish and all that stuff. And then to hear him do his commentary after was pretty cool. So I'm gonna go down a little rabbit hole and go watch some cool classic matches in the next however many days we're stuck inside.
Question: what did you think about that match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels?
It's a good match. Very good match. A lot of wrestling, like in the 90s, is kind of slow and looks kind of fake looking.
Nah, it's Bret Hart style. That was Bret Hart style.
Well, yeah, but it does still looks a little fake at times, just because of the way, like especially Steve Austin, which is kind of not to take a shot at Steve Austin, but a lot of his work in the 90s looks fake when you go back and look at it.
Is this before he had that major injury or after?
It was after. Yeah, so maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, so I let's get back to WrestleMania though, because this will be something that will happen in the future. It's going to be unlike any WrestleMania we've ever seen. I don't even know what to think about this. What are your guys' thoughts? How do you think this is going to go down with no fans? How can they possibly do this? That's the question.
I would have to say, for me personally, seeing how WrestleMania, it's never been done before with 0 fans and just having the cameraman being present. I think what they're just trying to do is trying to put out the matches like Raw and SmackDown, how they're being. I mean, it is going to look a little weird just by having them wrestle, and it is kind of seeing that seeing that promo or whatever that was between Austin and the Street Profits. Hate to say it, it was really cringy because now the stunner, to me, it's kind of like, okay, so anybody can take the stunner. It's so it's just so, yeah, like anybody can flop like a fish now. So it's basically when you stun them, now everybody can bounce like a fish, and it's
and not like nobody does it like The Rock does. Okay.
Rock and
Rock,
well, Austin has said that Shane McMahon is actually the best person to take a stunner. He's actually the best person to take a stunner. But with that being said, WrestleMania having with no fans, it is going to be interesting. Rob Gronkowski is going to be the host of WrestleMania. I think they're going to keep having it like Raw and SmackDown, just having matches, 4 matches or 5 matches for each night. Just looking at the card, it just doesn't look. I don't know. It just. I mean, we'll tune in. It is good. It is interesting. We are going to tune in, and whether we like it or not, this is going to be WrestleMania. This is going to be our card.
I like the way you said that. Whether we like it or not, this is WrestleMania this year.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't want to give out too much. That's
it's going to be super weird. I know. I guess the 2-night thing will make it a little bit more interesting. My thoughts on this. I personally believe this is going to look terrible. I don't know how they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to make it feel like WrestleMania. I mean, I understand, like, with these restrictions, the TV shows, both AEW and Raw and SmackDown and NXT, are all going to look kind of weird, right? That's just what we have to deal with. It's just the way it goes. We're lucky that we even have these shows on TV, to be honest, to watch, with all sports being canceled and UFC being canceled and there's no boxing to watch. At least a little bit of part of me is happy that there is this trash Raw and SmackDown product to watch on Mondays and Fridays, NXT with no fans, and then, of course, AEW. But I just don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's like I can't imagine Goldberg walking down that stupid Performance Center ramp. Like, how's that going to work? How are they going to make Brock Lesnar? It just doesn't. I don't know how they're going to make it feel special, and I just really, really wanted them to postpone it like everything else. The NBA Finals has been postponed. The Stanley Cup Finals has been postponed. I mean, the whole seasons have been postponed, but the championships, they would have postponed the Super Bowl probably if the Super Bowl was in this time. So I don't know. I think they could have just postponed this till later and just said, hey, we're gonna give everybody a little break here, and when we find out that it's time everybody go back outside and everybody to be able to be in the stands, let's run a show in some arena somewhere, Allstate, Madison Square Garden, something like that would have felt more special than it is. That's at least my thoughts.
Question for you, Nick. So I've been pondering this and been thinking about this. So remember last time in our last podcast, I said June would be a perfect time to do WrestleMania, right? I said that would be the perfect time to actually do it in Tampa Bay. But with all these restrictions going on and with the rumors having it that maybe this might be, or with Trump actually saying, President Trump saying that we might actually have this going on until July or August, WrestleMania may not be able to happen in July or August. What do you think would have been the alternative plan if we get to July and August and we have a date going on for WrestleMania and then all of a sudden it's canceled because this thing is still going on with the coronavirus? What are you going to do now?
I mean, I'm not even saying there needs to be a date. I'm just saying they just need to postpone it like everything else. They're treating it like it's not going to be affected by this, but it is. Literally, directly, it is. Like, it's almost like Vince feels like he's in this fake fantasy world where wrestling is going to go on with fans, and it's not. So I think he should just – what I'm saying is they gave the wrestlers off like they gave the NBA players off, the NHL players, the MLB players off. NFL can't do anything during the summer. They should have just said, hey, at least WWE, we're going to go on hiatus for a little bit. We have enough money. They even stated that in their statement when all this stuff first came out. They said that they had the ability to stay afloat, even if necessarily they weren't like running shows and they weren't operating business as usual. So they kind of were hypocrites about that and then decided to run WrestleMania anyways. I really don't know what the reason is. I think it just is Vince McMahon deciding that, he said something was going to happen, so he feels like he's going to go against his word or something like that. And I don't know. Jesse, what are you thinking about this?
To be honest, they should be kind of getting used to this for a little bit, for at least for the time being. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've done this like before they even went on to perform in front of people, like millions of people. I mean, it's not going to be much different than they were doing in the very beginning. And I mean, that's all I could give off of my opinion. I mean, they're going to have to definitely sell it for the people, for the viewers, through a TV. Definitely sell the hell out of it. Do their best. You're
saying the wrestlers have to sell like better than they usually do?
Yeah. They have to like put in more effort this time around. That's all I have to say off my head right now.
Ryan, so there's been speculation also that they're going to tape WrestleMania potentially. I believe that might be a good idea because then they can get the best possible product on TV with no fans. But what's your thoughts on that? What do you think about WrestleMania not actually being live?
Couple of things. First of all, I think Vince McMahon, the reason why Vince McMahon is keeping this going is because he might have something up his sleeve with either Fox or ESPN in the future. As we can tell, also, they're airing old WrestleManias coming up through the next couple of Sundays on ESPN. I think it's coming. I said this in the previous podcast. Expect this to be a time where we can negotiate with ESPN Plus or Fox or wherever to kind of get WrestleMania or these other major pay-per-views because networks are starving for content right now. They are desperate for content. I'm not the only one who's saying this in the community, but they are desperate for content. We all know it. So now ESPN is broadcasting WrestleMania. What's to stop Fox from saying, hey, we want, what's to say stop Fox from saying, hey, we want the current WrestleMania? You never know what could happen. They could broadcast one of the nights. As far as WrestleMania being recorded, I don't have an issue with that either, Nick. And the reason why is because we're not going to get any spoilers. Nobody's going to spoil anything. You have everybody sign an NDA, and you make people, you swear them to secrecy on the results of WrestleMania. And you tape as many shows as possible because we don't know how long it's going to be before President Trump says, hey, there's going to be a nationwide curfew. We have in California the National Guard coming out. There's several things that's happening right now. It seems like each day by day by day, by the hour, by the minute, there is a new update on this coronavirus situation. Like you blink, you go to sleep, and then you wake up, you're quarantined. You're laid off from your job, So it's a situation right now where things are changing rapidly. So I don't have a problem with doing that with saving money. My biggest issue, though, with WrestleMania is apparently they're testing everybody before they come in. A person can be asthmatic or cannot have symptoms, too. They could have symptoms, and then all of a sudden they get in contact with a wrestler like Roman Reigns, who is susceptible to this type of virus because he's had leukemia twice, and it could really hurt them. Think about the immune system. Yeah, and then also, I just want to say this. All these wrestling events are getting access to testing. How the hell are they getting all this access to testing so freaking quickly? It's amazing. It's
all about the money.
So you can also say the same thing about A-list celebrities too. I mean, they're the ones who are the front line getting tested early. So, yeah, I mean, while us, we have to wait.
Well, here's the thing. So, Ryan, what you're saying is that you would, in some ways, like a postponement too with this because of the risks to people like Roman Reigns and stuff like that. You're alluding that.
Somebody's going to get it, honestly. Honestly, I hate to be depressing, but I think somebody's going to get it. And it's going to force Vince McMahon to have to cancel everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and it's fun. It's because AEW is also doing this, and we'll move on to that after we kind of finish up on WrestleMania here. But it is interesting that these companies are kind of just still going. It's great for us, like I mentioned, for the entertainment value for us, everybody around the world sitting at home, essentially doing nothing. If you're not forced to be at work somewhere. It's nice to have at 8:00 on a Friday to have SmackDown come on. It's nice on Wednesday at 8:00 to have AEW Dynamite come on. But the reason the NBA and the NHL and the MLB stopped was because they didn't want their players being more susceptible to this virus. So the fact that these professional wrestling rosters are not doing that, you're right, Ryan. They're increasing the risk, and although we want it, it's probably in the end a bad idea to have any of this going on.
There is a source on Twitter. His or hers name is WrestleVotes, and they've come out with some very credible information. And apparently, they said that a source told them directly that a lot of talent is still hoping for a postponement.
Yeah, I heard this too.
So if your own talent is saying, "Hey, we don't want to go on with this show because of the risk involved and everything that's going on right now," I mean, I have to think, and from what I heard also from this source, is that it's coming from up top to keep WrestleMania going. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Well, it's Vince McMahon," I don't think it's Vince McMahon. I think it's a network like Fox or NBC Universal or NBC who are saying we need content. We need these shows. And I think they're in negotiations right now to do a deal at the very last minute to air this year's WrestleMania on Fox. I think it's happening. I think it's going to happen. I think that's the only reason. My dad said it. He was like, this could be a testing point for them to see if they can air WrestleMania on ESPN Plus or ESPN. I think it's got to happen. That's a great way Vince can make his money, and he's providing content that networks will definitely line up and pay for.
Would you? Here's my problem. I don't want to pay for WrestleMania.
Commercials.
So if I don't want to see commercials, but at this point, it's like I'll take anything. So it's a little different now, but I'm not paying $60 for WrestleMania without fans. I don't even like paying $60 for a WrestleMania normally. I like the current $10 situation that we deal with. That's cool. That's why, it works. Now it's kind of turned into some shitty pay-per-views along the line because they can do whatever they want. But what do you guys think about that? Like, do you guys, if they did make us pay for this WrestleMania, although we're starved for content, are we that starved for content that we're willing to throw down all that money to watch something that we're really kind of just forced to watch in some ways?
I mean, there are a lot of people right now being let go or just signing up for unemployment. So to be told that you're going to watch WrestleMania for 60 and you got to pay for $60. I don't think it's a good idea right now. WrestleMania or WWE, what they're trying to do is they're trying to see, because there was also kind of a demand for this sort of thing of having 2 nights of WrestleMania. We've been saying that also for us, by saying that we should have like 2 nights of WrestleMania, one night, because it's too big, because
it's too long.
Like
too long.
Freaking 20 matches in one night, and it's like 7 to 12 hours of wrestling, and it's just it's too much, and by that time your crowd is already burned out. It's a good idea for doing that, and it's also a good idea to have WrestleMania 2 nights, even though with this whole virus has basically forced Vince, the WWE, basically to a wall where they got to make decisions where it's either going to hurt the fans or it's going to hurt their company. So I think they were forced to a big decision that wasn't going to satisfy us and was going to satisfy a small group of people. But I think that just with this thing about Fox and ESPN, I think at this point it's just pay up to $10, at this point, really, because I really do not want to pay for $60. That's just my thing.
Yeah. And there's been no figure that's come out, by the way, if you're listening and you're wondering, would they announce? No. We're just speculating that if they were to do ESPN Plus or if they were to do a Fox pay-per-view, because both of those exist, that we would have to pay money for this WrestleMania. I think, Ryan, you've also stressed that you'd like to see it on Fox TV. And the fact that SmackDown is already on Fox, I think that could work. I've previously voiced that I don't want to see commercials, but we're in a little different situation right now, and I'll deal with commercials for the sake of seeing, WrestleMania, seeing some wrestling content here in a contentless world we're living in. So, it'll surely be interesting.
Let me just say this real quick.
What's up?
Real quick. I do not think this year they're going to make us pay $60 because of what's going on. That would be terrible. I do, however, think there has been maybe there will continue to be negotiations for them to possibly put it this year on Fox TV. I think it makes sense if you're going to split it into 2 nights. One night's going to be on pay-per-view or the network, and the other night could be on Fox, whichever night you think is the biggest night with the biggest amount of matches. Maybe they split it up. I've heard this idea of Raw and SmackDown. Raw on maybe a Saturday night, SmackDown on Sunday night, and the SmackDown side, because it's broadcast by Fox, can get WrestleMania on that Sunday. So that's some of the ideas that I've heard, and it kind of makes sense from a money standpoint. If that higher person is calling for this to continue, it makes sense for a network as big as Fox or Walt Disney Company, who owns ESPN, to be like, no, we want you to keep making content, or NBC Universal, hey, we want you to keep making content, because guess what? We're trying to make a deal here. We don't have any content. We can pay you for something as big as this, because we know there is a demand for this.
Yeah. So we did mention quickly that obviously this could be on 2 nights, right? This is a new thing. It's what Wrestle Kingdom does in Japan. It's what New Japan Pro Wrestling does. My personal thought is that it would be hard for them to do this in the future, only because of NXT TakeOver, and it would be kind of hard for them to have NXT TakeOver and WrestleMania on the same day. Again, it's kind of the same problem again, where you're having 6-7 hours of wrestling. So how do you guys, if this works out, maybe we like the idea of this after we watch this in the worst circumstances possible, how would you guys think they would do that? If they like, okay, well, maybe this is a good idea for the future. How would they do that with NXT TakeOver and the Hall of Fame and Friday Night SmackDown? How would they do a 2-night WrestleMania in a normal format?
I mean,
I don't think you pretty much you can't do it, because like you got WrestleMania, which is like basically the head event, and you got NXT, which is just like a show just for the fans, and you know it's gonna basically collide. Like which one you're gonna choose, like which one you're gonna prefer.
Yeah, you're saying if they do NXT and WrestleMania on the same night.
Yeah, I mean they gotta do it at different nights. I'm gonna have to say they're gonna have to do it at different nights, because they're gonna one of them is gonna lose ratings. Think about the ratings. Like either one's gonna fall and one's gonna rise up. And I think at this point right now, I think the WrestleMania event's gonna fall. Like their ratings is gonna definitely go down, and the NXT ratings will kind of somewhat stay up afloat, I guess. And I mean that's my opinion.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think?
It's going to be very hard at this point to try to jostle with NXT TakeOver and WrestleMania having it on the same night. If this problem didn't happen, then we would still have WrestleMania on Sunday and NXT TakeOver on Saturday. But right now, I think what they're going to do is that they're probably going to make for NXT TakeOver, if this is going to happen, if there's an NXT TakeOver this year, if what they're going to do is they're probably going to have it as a SmackDown exclusive, or actually have TakeOver on NXT on Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you guys kind of I misinformed you guys. So I'm talking about next year. Next year, all this is done, and let's say they want to do a 2-night WrestleMania. So how would you guys do that weekend? Like, would you have NXT be on Thursday? And would you have maybe the Hall of Fame follow it? So like something like that. What would you guys do in that scenario next year? I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about next year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would have the NXT event on a Thursday night, and then Saturday night WrestleMania event. I mean,
Friday
that's for everybody. Yeah.
Well, and I would have NXT TakeOver on Wednesday. That way they can compete with AEW. That way, because AEW, they've been doing since they're gonna do Blood and Guts, and they've been doing Bash at the Beach, these sort of pay-per-view like shows on Wednesday. So for NXT, they said, hey, if AEW can do these sort of pay-per-view kind of shows on Wednesday, why can't we? So
it's interesting thought. Yeah, you do. So you're saying you do the Wednesday before WrestleMania turns into NXT TakeOver, and it directly competes with AEW.
Yeah,
that's interesting, because they would obviously, I think, win in the ratings. if they put NXT TakeOver on a Wednesday. No, I mean, I would tape AEW because we're in a digital age now where you can watch both. But if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely watch TakeOver. You know, it's just TakeOver's better than a TV
They
show.
announced it as a pay-per-view event for Wednesday. That's how if I was
that's cool.
Triple H or one of the guys, I would have that as a takeover to kind of dodge AEW or sort of like compete with AEW. That's what I would do. Yeah.
And then Hall of Fame Thursday, SmackDown Friday, and the rest. Yeah. Ryan, what's your thoughts? What would you do in the scenario next year?
Well, we had a situation where last year a whole bunch of SmackDown talent was left in Saudi Arabia, and the NXT talent came in on a Friday night and absolutely did fantastic and got fantastic ratings. And that was honestly the best SmackDown of 2019. I think realistically, if you could do it, if you could work it out, this can be a test run. You could put NXT TakeOver on Friday night. Instead of having SmackDown, if you can make a deal with Fox, you can say, hey, we're going to give you NXT TakeOver.
Yeah.
We'll give you all this young talent. Maybe you'll see some WWE superstars. We'll have it for 2 hours or 2.5 hours or whatever Fox will allow. And we'll do NXT TakeOver on that Friday night.
Oh.
That'll give the superstars for Mania time to rest up for Saturday and Sunday. Now, as far as the Hall of Fame goes, I care less about the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. Like, until they get an actual real Hall of Fame, like the NFL one, like even NASCAR, like MLB, like the NBA, whatever, until they get a real, even UFC, until they get a real Hall of Fame, I won't care about that. So what they could do is just tape that and just air that Monday before Raw. They've done that before in the past. A Monday night before Raw or before a SmackDown show or whatnot, they've aired the Hall of Fame. I don't care when they do it, and I don't even think it should be with fans because of what happened last year with Bret Hart getting tackled.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by the way, I hope that guy has coronavirus. I don't wish coronavirus besides that guy who tackled Bret Hart. Okay, hopefully you have coronavirus right now. Okay.
Well, at this point right now, I don't wish my enemy any coronavirus because that enemy would be spreading coronavirus to the other person.
That's
and
a
then
good point.
These guys full circle on me, and then it would be karma.
Hopefully,
Brian would just tackle another guy and infect the rest of the country. You know?
And then it would become full circle, and it would come to me, and it would contain to you guys.
Yeah.
So
karma, whole karma, right?
Yeah, right there.
And personally, then our inner circle here would get infected, and that's a good way to transition to AEW. Because there's been a lot going on with AEW lately. You obviously had another no fan show on Wednesday. It was their first one. A lot of people praised it. A lot of people thought it was a lot better than what WWE has been doing. They had, like we were mentioning earlier, if we said this, they had the wrestlers on the barricade kind of being fans in a way, but also acting like they're characters, not going off kayfabe and doing all that stuff. You had MJF screaming at everybody. It was literally hilarious. I was laughing out loud at some of the stuff he was saying. Yeah. You had Orange Cassidy sleeping at ringside. You know, you had all this cool stuff. And then they originally announced that Blood and Guts was going to happen this coming Wednesday. But they just canceled that today and said they're going to move that Blood and Guts match and that Blood and Guts kind of pseudo pay-per-view to another date. It came straight from Tony Khan saying that the fans deserve that event when fans can be there. I personally would not have minded this being next week because of how good the presentation was this last Wednesday. But I totally understand, and they're still going to put on a killer show. I think there's going to be a street fight. They're still going to have a lot of matches. They're going to carry on storylines like that. So I'm good. What were your guys' thoughts on Dynamite this week and AEW's version of a coronavirus show in a way?
I was just curious to see how this was going to affect. I know Cody at this point, he's probably like heard about the fact that there's no fans, just like everybody else. Yeah. Tony, Cody, the Young Bucks, and Kenny, I'm pretty sure they're like heard that, well, without the fans, how can we make this show happen? I think Cody tried to do the best he could to try to throw out what he could to make it entertaining for us and for those who bought tickets to the show from, this Wednesday couldn't make it. So they were try to like repay it back as much as they could. For me personally, it was just, I thought it was pretty good. It was smart. Like you said, Nick, it was smart that they had wrestlers as fans. MJF and Sean Spears were placing bets on some of these wrestlers.
They look
I thought that was
fantastic
smart.
together, don't they?
No,
Yeah.
no, they can be a tag team. I don't know. Sean, did he find that tag team? Who knows? So, the street fight is that should be something cool because the parking lot has always been something that's been isolated. So with no fans, it works. So
that's going to be dope. That's such a good idea. That's such a good idea.
Yeah, in a parking lot or in a street, I mean, that's fine as long as there's no people around. So that's pretty good. It's pretty cool that they're doing that. As far as blood and guts go, I'm gonna have to go with Tony's side. You know, the fans deserve to watch that wrestling match. With 2 rings and the of course War Games inspired match in front of people. So for them, AEW, they gotta, like, with no fans, they gotta find a way to survive because it looked like they were having like momentum in the beginning of last year, and then going on to like these pay-per-views from last year, and then going on to this year. It looked like it was promising, and then this happened. I feel bad for them because it looked like they were going, looks like they were building until this happened. Yeah, it just it sucks on their part. So I just hope for the best. But yeah, this week's episode was pretty good. I would have to say it was more enjoyable than Raw and SmackDown combined.
Yeah, for sure. RKJ, what do you think about this?
Broken Matt Hardy is here.
Yes.
Yes.
It's fantastic to see Matt Hardy. He is reinvigorated.
Wonderful.
He is ready to rock and roll. That man is ready to delete.
Okay, I'm not gonna do that again. I saw how that looked on the screen, so I'm not gonna do it anymore. Eric, don't say it. Don't say it.
Let's all do it.
I am concerned, man.
Ready? No?
Look, man, it looks terrible. But look, Broken Matt Hardy, man, is going to absolutely destroy some people in AEW, and he's gonna get a chance to be creative. That was his main concern with WWE, is that he was bringing all these ideas to Vince, and sorry, Bruce, but he's bringing them to you too, and whoever, and Paul Heyman, whoever, and he was getting turned down, or his ideas just were getting utilized. So I think in AEW he's going to have a creative outlet. Now I haven't heard the Talk Is Jericho podcast yet. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but he said he said that he owed something to the Young Bucks or the Elite. Did he say that or something? I heard him say something.
He said that in character, in some way. Yeah, he said that he. I believe. Oh no, this is what he was talking about. He did say that in character on the thing, but he also talked about how apparently when AEW wasn't a thing, Ring of Honor and Impact, when Matt Hardy was at his top, he was really the only reason Impact was even a show to watch. They did some combined thing, and they were actually going to go into business with each other and kind of combine, and they were going to have a big Young Bucks Hardys match or something along the lines of that, maybe at like a WrestleMania weekend. Something along those lines, or create kind of the first version of All In with the Hardys. But apparently just Impact management changed at the perfect time. So they were not able to do shows with Ring of Honor. So I think that's what he's referring to, is that he owes the Young Bucks a kind of match because it got canceled just due to Impact and Ring of Honor not agreeing with each other on certain stuff.
So did he sign a full-term deal with them?
I know they introduced him. They said on Twitter that he's all elite. So him and Brody Lee are both officially signed now.
What do we think about that, guys? What do you think about Brody being the exalted one?
I mean, I think it's how should I put this? A surprise for like everybody. Everybody expected to be Matt Hardy. Not Matt Hardy.
I expected to be Matt Hardy.
I mean, everybody expected him to be the leader,
Yeah.
And then when this came out, I mean, look, it surprised the hell out of me, but I loved it. Every single minute of it, I loved. And I mean, it's pretty creative. Like they're gonna do some twists and turns in here and there, but I can't wait.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you think about Brody Lee being the exalted one?
I have high hopes for the guy. It looks like there's going to be more credit due for Brody Lee. It looked like he was going to, when he got let go of WWE, it was it was heartbreaking because at the time I thought he was like the better wrestler from the Wyatt family, but he just never got his credit. People they did praise him, but he never got that chance. But now, since he is the Exalted One, he's going to play a major role with the Dark Order, and this should definitely give some sort of credibility to the Dark Order because there's been so many things about the Exalted One is coming, and those commercials have been showing up, and then that should definitely have somewhat of a good feud and make the feud more legitimate with SCU and Dark Order. So, that would be I'm happy for Brody Lee. So we'll see in the future what Brody Lee can do, hopefully for next week. So yeah.
You give me Luke Harper, Brody Lee, give him to me on my TV every week. He's one of the hardest hitters in professional wrestling. You could tell they were underutilizing him clearly in WWE. One of the better performers on that WWE roster over the last couple of years. So I you know what, when we started, when AEW kind of started, I was kind of sour on the Dark Order. I didn't care about their match when I was there at All Out. When Ryan and I were there at All Out, we didn't really care about them that much. They didn't get a good reaction, but they've done a good job of getting over on TV somewhat. So having Brody Lee, a more legitimate known name, at least in the professional wrestling fan circuit, it's good. Because I didn't know who Evil Uno was. I didn't know who Stu Grayson was. I didn't know who any of those other guys in that group were. They were kind of just being introduced to me. Now you combine them with a real star, kind of like what the Inner Circle did in some ways, where you had Jericho and then you had Sammy Guevara and you had why am I forgetting the guys from Puerto Rico's names? What are their names? Santana and Ortiz. Jake Hager obviously being muscle, some guys that we know, but similar to that, like they kind of became legitimate, even more legitimate when a guy like Jake Hager joined. Now we have Brody Lee joining. And I'm excited, and it kind of sucks that he wasn't able to get that Rochester, New York crowd cheer because this show was originally supposed to be in his hometown of Rochester, New York. It was the reason they were going to have this Exalted One be announced for this date, but we still got what we wanted, and I do like that they did that little swerve where they were like, okay, Brody Lee is the Exalted One, and then we're all like, oh, well, I guess Matt Hardy's not signing with AEW anytime soon. Sure enough, an hour later, here comes the little thing out of the sky. Vanguard One. And
respect on his name.
I personally thought they so I was watching live, and I thought they messed up the timing of the show, and they had way too much time left. And then we hear this weird sound. I'm like, man, now they have audio issues? Sure, little do I know. Here comes Vanguard One.
I'm glad you talk about production issues. I actually saw Brody Lee walk out.
100% I did too. Yep, I did too. Hey, you know what though? They're trying their best. I'm not even gonna give them shit.
Look, man. I hate to be the damper of bad news, man. I hate to be sour and everything, man. But I was a little bit disappointed it wasn't Matt Hardy. I was a little bit disappointed. I mean, I'm happy for Brody Lee. I'm happy. And also, did you guys notice how he said, you're not the first old man to not believe in me or to be out? Yeah. Perfect. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, Brody Lee is different. It's something unique. Obviously, though, when I think of AEW, I kind of compare him to WCW. Tony Khan has made the illusions about how he's kind of made it kind of like WCW back when they were really good. So I was thinking the third man, NWO, Hulk Hogan. But obviously, we're not going to get that just yet. So Brody Lee is a good replacement. He's somebody good. And I respect AEW doing that. But I did notice on social media there was a lot of criticism because it seems like AEW is bringing over a couple WWE guys in bulk now. Do we think that AEW is going to become kind of like a TNA 2.0, which is what we first talked about, in the fact that, hey, if you get released by the WWE, guess what? You're probably going to AEW immediately.
Personally, let me answer this first. I do not, because the TNA situation was old stars. These are not that Matt Hardy is new, but that character is relatively unknown on television, right? That broken Matt Hardy character wasn't used properly in WWE.
He was used in Impact Wrestling now.
But Impact Wrestling is not. It's on TV, but it's also not. You know what I'm saying? It's on Pop. Nobody has Pop. I didn't know where Pop was. I had to look at my channel guide.
Hey man, we've talked to some Impact stars, former Impact stars. They buried it too. So
yeah, we're not speaking outside the choir here, but I just think this is him, Brody Lee. He's relatively still a kind of fresh name in a lot of people's minds. It's not like, I'm trying to find an example here. Someone, because WWE doesn't really have those old time stuff. I mean, it would be like if they brought in Goldberg, right? Someone like that, that would be like, okay, guys, come on, or if they brought in
Edge.
Yeah, if they brought in Edge, if they brought in Christian, all these older guys that carry Sting, for example, Kurt Angle, that would be a little different. I think right now a lot of these guys are in the primes of their careers. Jon Moxley, for example, prime of his career. Chris Jericho, not in the prime of his career, but he still can go, right? He's still more. He's more entertaining than a lot of those guys back then in TNA overall. At his age right now, he's more entertaining than Hulk Hogan, and those guys they couldn't wrestle, And Scott Hall was dealing with substance abuse issues and stuff like that, so it didn't work, right? So I think it's different because the age and the certain people that are coming over from WWE are fresh. They're not old and people are sick of them. Most people are craving these guys. And I think the two guys that debuted this Wednesday are some of the best examples in wrestling of guys that we've been really craving to be shown. I think the Revival are another group that we're waiting for them to end their contract with WWE so they can go over to AEW and rightfully have a match with the Young Bucks that we've all been waiting for. So personally, in my opinion, I think that this is a good thing, and it doesn't compare perfectly with TNA.
That makes sense. Eric? No, you go for it, Jess. You go.
I mean, like Ryan said before, AEW is kind of like the modern day of WCW, And like you said too, Nick, these young, up-and-coming fresh stars, nobody knows, but yet they're craving them. They still want that power. And, AEW is doing a terrific job. They're getting guys like great talent from the WWE that WWE themselves are squandering. I mean, look at EC3 right now. His talent.
That's another good example. That's a good example of a guy that needs to get the hell out of there.
Hey, I mean, I would love to see him in AEW, man. His talent. I mean, look, he should be like champion at this point. I would love to see EC3 at AEW, in my opinion, and I'm a big fan of his.
No, yeah, I mean, good thing that you brought EC3 up. He could be a good addition and have some sort of feud with MJF, since those two guys are great heels. That could happen.
That's good. I like it.
So that could be a dream match for AEW. A lot of these wrestlers who have been squandered or who haven't been used properly, still fresh faces who aren't like veterans, who are going to AEW. I'm not going to have a problem with that. Jake Hager, I have no problem him going to AEW. Same for a guy like, of course, Mox. It was timing. The overall thing is that it was. I think in my mind that the Moxley thing, it was coming. Moxley, this is my dog. So Moxley.
You can wait it out if you want. We're not live or anything.
I know, definitely. So what I'm saying is that Moxley was one of those kind of guys that I felt like in a way it was coming, and then at the same time, what was it? A guy like Matt Hardy, his character like broken Matt Hardy or woken Matt Hardy. We could have seen more about it with the whole woken Matt Hardy thing in WWE, but it started to get sour. It started to lower down, and I felt like in my mind, no, it just wasn't like fresh anymore. Like at the first few weeks of the woken Matt Hardy, it wasn't even all that good, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's not enough exposure.
Yeah, just wasn't that much exposure. I don't think people were I think they were hoping for it. They were wishing for it, and then they finally got it, but it felt way too kind of manufactured. It felt too controlled. and that's the problem when some of these with some of these gimmicks, if they're being brought over to WWE, they become more manufactured, toned down, watered down.
It got McMahon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Harry does, right? Ferry does,
I mean,
right?
I'll say this. So I don't know if you guys saw the interview. Matt Hardy actually talked about that, and he described the background, like what was going on behind the scenes with his ideas, and he wanted to have Bray Wyatt join his family and kind of be this thing. But yeah, you're right. RKJ, he did McMahon it. And literally, I'm not, you guys will have to go back to the interview. He said, Matt Hardy said that when the two of them would laugh in the ring, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy would laugh, broken Matt Hardy would laugh. Vince came back after the first time seeing that and literally said, that's such good shit, and literally ran it back for like 2 months straight and said, you guys have to laugh at the end of every single segment, essentially souring the whole thing. So you're right. You guessed because you didn't see the interview. That's what happened. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm trying to say is the broken Matt Hardy is fresh. Matt Hardy himself is not fresh, but that's not who we're going to see. We're going to see broken Matt Hardy. We're not going to see the Matt Hardy that we've seen in WWE, the one that's with Jeff Hardy and stuff like that. If Jeff has time to go, whenever he goes over there, because he probably will, he'll be Brother Nero. He won't be Jeff Hardy. So it's different. The characters themselves are fresh. The people, their ages might not be, they're not, like, to use a term my colleague Jared Smith uses, nobody's really a spring chicken anymore. But
that's also who needs to go to AEW. Ricochet.
I think he has way too many years on his contract. I think that's impossible. But so that's it. Just to go to that point, since McMahon kind of soured on those ideas and didn't do the broken Matt Hardy thing right, I think that these guys are still fresh and it still works in AEW.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder because remember when Dean Ambrose said that quote unquote he's about to leave WWE, and I thought to myself, I had like second thoughts like, oh, I think like he's gonna come back, like not as Dean Ambrose, but he's gonna come back as Jon Moxley. But I had fear for him that his character Jon Moxley was gonna be toned down, watered down,
of course,
and not going to be that hardcore wrestler that a lot of people know him. It's going to be really, really tamed and manufactured and held back. And it's a good way that he went to AEW and reinvented himself as Jon Moxley on just a higher platform. That's just, I wanted to add in,
He has more exposure at this point right now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the ability to be creative. Like, Vince McMahon doesn't allow you to be creative. He literally has a creative staff who tells you how to act, how to behave, what lines. They write everything out for you. They even produce your matches. They tell you what to do in the match.
That sucks.
For AEW, you have wrestlers who are like, okay, what do you think about this? Okay, you don't like that? Give me an idea for this. Hey, what do you want to do in this match? Hey, do you want to do that in that? Sometimes it has its negatives because some of these matches in AEW seem like gym fest, gymnastics in wrestling. But in good things like this, when you have broken Matt Hardy, you have Brody Lee being the exalted one, Jon Moxley, Eric, I like how you brought that one up. When these wrestlers are allowed to reinvent themselves and use some of their creative mindsets that they've had for a long time and be able to bring something new and different, and they can run it by a Tony Khan who can look at the positives and negatives and fit that onto TV, that's what Vince used to do. That's what Vince used to do back in the day. I don't know where he lost it, honestly. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe it was the Ruthless Aggression era. Maybe it was the turn to PG with John Cena. And he got too reliant on that system. But he used to have the system. He used to have a plan in place for a wrestler, like with Mankind and Mick Foley. Didn't know how to do it. All of a sudden, he has him doing interviews with JR, and everything works out perfectly. He used to have it, and now he doesn't have it anymore.
And forgot Cactus Jack.
Young Vince.
I mean, that's the problem of once you get old, you start to get more stubborn, and you start to get a little bit more like, it's mine.
You get used to your old ways.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
those are all good points. I had an idea and I lost my train of thought completely. So real quick before we kind of transition to the UFC side of this. What are your guys' thoughts on what's going to happen the next couple weeks? Obviously, we have WrestleMania to look forward to, in some ways. But what's after WrestleMania? What the hell is happening? You know, maybe do we maybe see time off? Do we maybe do you think that WWE is going to kind of cease operations for a little bit?
Please.
I think it's a possibility, like with this whole thing, pandemic going on, and you got to take care. If you're Vince, you got to take care of your athletes, okay? And you don't want them to get sick or get infected, and then so on. And then if somebody dies from there, it's gonna suck, and it's gonna be damn tragic to see one of your top guys and go out, or And right now at this time, you just got to watch out for everybody and everybody.
Yeah, the only thing they can do is watch out for the wrestlers. Even if you got to do this, on the network, just pull something out from the network, W Network, and then put it on USA, Fox, something like that.
I mean, the Spanish
channel.
Yeah, the Spanish channels, they kind of go over to the old tapes and then put it on TV. I mean, Telemundo does it, and they broadcast like the old episodes, and that's what they should do right now, since this whole thing is going down. And
because your health comes
right now, wrestlers.
Yeah, because the reality is, look, your health comes first.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a given. If you can't compete due to your health, then you can't compete. I mean, you're not going to be out there wrestling with the virus up against a guy like Roman Reigns, and then get Roman Reigns, and then it gets to Goldberg, and then Goldberg it gets to Vince, and then it gets to Pritchard, gets to Paul Heyman, and then
it's all around.
Yeah, it's going to all go around.
Eric, I think either they're going to cease operations, or operations are going to get forced to be ceased.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically meaning somebody's going to get infected, and it's going to be somebody big. Imagine if Vince McMahon got the coronavirus and he's in his 70s. Because he's got to be there at WrestleMania to see what's going on, right? He's got to control WrestleMania. He's always...
Well, remember, Vince McMahon doesn't get sick. So I don't think that's going to happen. You guys realize that we're dealing with somebody here that doesn't believe in sickness. So he doesn't believe that the coronavirus
don't care what Vince McMahon thinks.
Oh, I know. I'm just telling you who we're dealing with here.
Coronavirus cell thingy is coming after Vince. It's coming after Vince McMahon. It's gonna go bear him. It's gonna go bear Vince.
Jeez. Well, even if he does get it, I do believe he's gonna make it out, because he's got the money. He's gonna get tested early, and then after that, everything's gonna be fine with him.
I mean, he's going to go through all precautions, to be honest. Everybody has to.
We're all going to have to do that, yeah.
You know what I hate? Oh, go ahead, Nick.
No, I wasn't really going to say anything. What were we going to say?
You know what I hate, though, about WrestleMania weekend? One thing we kind of haven't touched on, and we didn't touch on it last week when we talked about it, is these independent wrestling shows. These independent wrestlers are not going to get their money. As a matter of fact, I'm a little ticked off today because Braun Strowman had the audacity to talk crap on independent wrestlers, saying something about how it's their fault where they're not made it big, and how you gotta scratch and claw. I don't know, man. It's BS. What do we think about independent wrestling struggle, and what do we think about what Braun Strowman's saying? I think he's full of crap. I think he's the millennial Big Show. I think he sucks.
There we go.
I think his character is awful. I don't think there's anything about him unless he's going up against Roman Reigns. And I think he's the type of guy who could be out in the WWE in a few years and could be on the street, honestly.
There you go. Mini Ryan rants here on the Ring Jails podcast.
What do you want?
Well, no, it's fine.
Ryan versus Braun Strowman. Set it up, Vince.
And the only reason why he's still in the WWE is because he's big. He's a big guy.
Here.
Still has a big man fetish.
To get my take on that, obviously his comments are pretty stupid, and it's coming from a guy that didn't go through the indies. So it's even more. It sounds so what's the word? It sounds so kind of it's a privileged kind of thing to say, because he literally was signed to WWE, RKJ, like you're saying, because of the way he looked and because of his background in powerlifting. He even in his tweet kind of acted like he quit powerlifting to join the WWE. No, they kind of hunted you down and offered you a contract, which is, I mean, I would do that too right now. They could take all the creative control they want. They could literally have me go poop on live TV, and I would take it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was doing nothing in my life, you know what I'm saying? Like
come out with Cocoa Puff hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a title on. But
I don't.
so yeah, it was
that.
dumb. It was dumb. And I think it's just it comes from the fact that he didn't pay his dues. In a way, he paid his dues in the performance center, I guess, which doesn't really count. But I think he just doesn't know. It's really dumb. It was a dumbass comment. And I think for independent, to get on the real issue here, independent wrestling, yeah, I mean it's one of the things you got to look at. It's minor league baseball, you know, the XFL. There's a lot of other things here that are getting affected, and overall all of us are getting affected by this. You know, people potentially getting laid off, less hours at work, stuff like that. So it goes to independent wrestlers too. And until they start allowing these restrictions to be a little less, we're going to be sitting here, and a lot of those people might, you know, they might not be able to be professional wrestlers for a while here, because they're going to have to get another job and they're going to have to do something else. So it sucks, but it's kind of like everything else that's been going on. They're just, unfortunately, they're not protected because their contracts just don't. It's not enough. They don't have contracts. They're making money doing their own thing.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, we were fortunate enough to meet a lot of these wrestlers at bar wrestling or some of these wrestling shows that we've been to, and you know, they're out there busting their ass, you know, for $20 or $50 a match, and they got to sell merch, and they got to go to another town, or sometimes they got to get a part-time job, you know, just to pay off the rent or to pay off their car, you know, and it's really hard for them, and it's my heart goes out to you guys as well, you know, because you know we were fortunate enough to meet, you know, guys like you and bar wrestling, you know, GCW, you know, all these guys, so yeah, they're going to be the ones kind of like affected by it. And with a guy like Braun, you know, I respect the guy because, and I love the guy due to his powerlifting background and strongman competition. But yeah, it was kind of a dumb tweet that he did. You know, it's kind of a thing for, I think maybe Braun is kind of like telling them kind of like lighten up or something like that, I guess, or like in his own version of trying to like, you know, quit being a wussy and all that. But it's kind of a wrong way to do it for some of these wrestling, these wrestlers who wrestle like in bars or wrestle like in small venues or can't even afford to pay the rent, or they got to do what they got to do. But yeah, it's I just hope that some of these, like, as soon as everything goes, you know, starts to lighten up here in the US or every other country, I just hope that these wrestlers can get paid a little bit more as soon as like this happens, you know, as soon as everything lightens up, you know.
Yeah, it's tough because I assume there are a lot of independent wrestlers that do have second jobs, because I can't imagine independent wrestling kind of being your living. If you're close to an AEW, like a Chris Bay or somebody like that, I think maybe your payment is a little better. I don't want to speculate on any of that, but there's, I mean, you know, an independent wrestling company in, say, Iowa, right? It's not the same as an independent wrestling company here in Los Angeles or in New York or in Florida or Texas, or, you know what I'm saying? So it's, or in Tennessee or something like that. We've interviewed, you know, people that from all over. So it's, yeah, it's terrible. I just hope they've kind of protected themselves. They've saved their money just in case something like this did happen, just in case they were to get injured one day. And I hope that for the next couple months, they're able to stay afloat and then get back to wrestling. And I'll tell you this, I want to be at that first bar wrestling show when it happens. I want to support those guys 100%. So we'll be there. If there's anybody from bar wrestling watching right now, we will do everything in our power to at least have some representation of the ring generals at a bar wrestling show. I did see GCW actually ran a show tonight.
The acid cut, baby.
Yeah, they ran a show with, it was limited. They kind of did the thing with the wrestlers as fans and stuff like that. They had a cutout of John Cena there too. It was great. it was great.
They have our homie Alex Zane on there.
I didn't see. I saw Joey Janela. That's the only person
Bad boy Janela.
Yeah, so it's there's still stuff going on. There's still is stuff going on, but in general, I hope this thing kind of clears up, and I hope we can, in the grand scheme of things, figure this out.
I think the only thing that you can do is just buy the merch at this point. Not the
true.
shows, but it's merch.
I've been trying. I'm gonna start supporting kind of my local businesses here around here too that I know might be suffering as well. And obviously independent wrestling it's a big part of what we do too. We love going to those shows. We've been to GCW. We've been to bar wrestling. We've looked into going to a lot of other shows here in the LA area. So, I hope that they're all good. And anybody that's watching right now, we'll do everything in our power to support you and spread the word and do all that stuff. Okay, switching it real quickly. Obviously, the same thing has kind of been going on in the MMA world. Unfortunately, Khabib and Tony Ferguson. I mean, we can make all the jokes we want, but guys, is it gonna get canceled again? Are we kidding me right now? Like, remember how we joked?
Not wanting to happen.
Jesse and Eric, we did a show, and we talked about it. Was a long time ago. I think it was in January, maybe even December, and we talked about let's not speak of Khabib and Ferguson, but something's gonna happen, and we started talking about it, and look what happened. There is a curse on that fight.
We brought it up briefly. And
it's not
unfortunately, it's gonna happen. Dana White.
It's not gonna happen.
Okay, but here's the thing.
This is a global pandemic. If Vince McMahon shut down, Dana White sure as hell shut down.
Well, I'll say this though. Dana White has been he's been saying that he is going to be the first sporting event. Like he's going to try to put on these shows for us somehow. And there's other people suggesting that you literally just have Khabib and Tony Ferguson on a pay-per-view and just put that fight specifically. No undercard, anything like that.
What is that?
What?
What is that? You just have one fight on? You just put it on ESPN? That's nothing.
I mean, for example, it would be somewhat like a big-time boxing match. A lot of times you're not really looking at the undercard. You're ready there for the main event. But so, guys, what are our thoughts? Like, do they just postpone it? Can they do it maybe in a different country that's not affected by this?
Everybody's affected by this.
I know. Well, I know. There's very limited countries that would have the ability of holding a UFC show. That would I think you got to postpone it like everything else. This is like Dana White is not as cynical as Vince McMahon, I assume. So I think he'll understand and he'll do everything in his power to try to get this done. But I think eventually it'll be shown that it won't be able to be done. I just think that just postpone it like everything else. There's no reason why that fight needs to happen. Everybody stopped doing their training camps. Just postpone it. Like everything else, where all these other UFC events are getting moved, and just put it at UFC 252 or UFC 253, and just move it to the fall. And so that when this stuff is kind of over, we can just have it again. The UFC has the ability to do that. It's not like there's storyline behind this like pro wrestling. There is somewhat the pro wrestling kind of has to continue and it has to keep going because there's storylines. You can't just up and quit at everything. But UFC. Just postpone it like every other sport, I
mean, as Dana White said, the show must go on. I mean, you can't put it any way more simple than that. And, I mean, look, Dana White received, like, a lot of criticism by the media right now as recently because, like, this whole pandemic. And, I mean, look what Scott Coker did. Like, he canceled the shows in the East Coast and in Dublin due to the virus. And, I mean, he actually paid his fighters right afterwards. He compensated for their training and for the camps and everything else. And I mean, he's receiving a lot of love from his under his banner, and everybody's loving him right now. And I mean, it's absolutely the right move, the right call. And right now, I mean, I'm gonna have to disagree with Dana White at this point, but I mean, that's just my opinion. It's gonna happen regardless, whether it's gonna hurt your feelings or not. I mean, look, he's going to probably kind of take risks here, but he's going to take precautions at the same time. He's going to basically what he did with in UFC in Brasilia. What he did is had some of his camera guys and some of his back staff people and quarantined, and I mean, look, I'm hoping this fight happens. It might be possibly the final fight of the year, possibly. If not, then the latest fight. And I mean, everybody's looking forward to it. And I mean, if I was Dana White right now, I'll probably postpone it, but it's not going to happen. Dana White's kind of money greedy at this point, and he wants that thing right now. It's the biggest lightweight title fight of the year, if not the history of the MMA community right now.
It's definitely the biggest lightweight fight.
It's bigger than Conor versus Khabib at this point right now.
No, stop it.
No, it is. It is the
true.
second McGregor Khabib fight would be bigger than this, but this as of right now, there's a lot of MMA people saying that this is going to be the best fight ever.
It's been waiting. We've been waiting for it for a while.
It's been
Why?
This fight is supposed to happen
to avoid coronavirus. What's going on here? No,
I don't know. I don't know if anybody heard you because we were all talking. What were you saying?
I'm saying, are these people high? Are they smoking crack cocaine because they're quarantined from coronavirus?
Maybe.
Imagine if smoking crack cocaine actually freaking the virus.
I would do it.
I heard it was pigs or something, but maybe cocaine did it too. Maybe pigs and cocaine. Look, let me ask you guys an honest question, okay? What did you guys think of last week's show with UFC being with no fans in Brazil? Did you think it was a good show? Did you like the atmosphere? Because wrestling's completely different. I know you guys said, because you guys are the UFC guys. You're the MMA guys. You said that MMA, UFC can actually survive with no fans because you can hear the hit a lot better. You guys think that better than with having fans?
No. It's absolutely not better than with fans. It's not, but nothing is better without fans. Besides, like, I don't know.
But I mean, it won't affect their performances. That's the main point. Like, it won't affect them. I mean, there's fans, they could probably take it out on the damn streets right now, and then they'll just say raise the winner, and then here you go, here's your winner.
That's true. I mean, because that UFC fight night that was main evented by Kevin Lee and Charles Olivier. It was a very interesting card. It was fun to watch because it was something to watch. I don't think normally I would have watched the entire card like I did, but we've been so lacking content here. It was fun. I cheated and watched Joe Rogan's Fight Companion, so I didn't have the sound on. I watched Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub and Eddie Bravo and Brian Callen kind of talk about the coronavirus while also talking about the fights. And I did have a little bit. I did have a couple of glasses of whiskey while I was watching it too. So I was having a pretty good time. But I liked the fights, and there was stuff that happened during this event that didn't need fans. There was a post-fight argument. There was Kevin Lee trying to continue the fight even though he had tapped out. So there was some drama. And to Jesse's point, RKJ, it didn't seem like the no fans really affected anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, I did watch that fight, the entire card. It was very interesting to see it with no fans because, okay, I saw the Raw and SmackDown, how they're doing it. Now I want to see how UFC's doing it. And another way, yeah, it may have, the fans not being there may have affected the performance, but I think what a lot of people are missing out are the fact that sometimes a lot of these fighters, they hear so many different orders from different fans than their coaches. So now they could actually hear the coaches fight. I mean, you can actually hear the coaches tell them what to do in order to do what not to do and what to do.
You actually hear the cornerman actually cornering their fighter.
Yeah, the cornerman, which is something that you should even obey from the very beginning. But since with the roar of the crowd, you hear so many things. No, get him in the face. No, kick him in the legs. Kick him. You're so confused, and you're like, you can't even hear the cornerman. So with that being said, I think that was a big advantage for a lot of these fighters to, win their matches or lose their matches. But that was kind of like a test for fight night. Apparently, we're not going to get Edwards and Woodley, and we're not going to get Ngannou and Rosenstruck, which I've been looking forward to.
I know.
So brutal.
You and I were looking.
You'll get Stipe and Cormier 3.
No. I mean, it's gonna happen, but it's gonna be C's last fight.
Hey man, look, all I know is this, man. They better not mess up Khabib versus McGregor too. That thing needs to happen sometime in the fall. Okay, if it's not, they're gonna postpone it to July. Have Khabib kick Ferguson's ass, which I know is gonna happen. And then we're gonna do later in the year. We're gonna do the biggest rematch ever when we're all free of this coronavirus crap. Khabib versus McGregor too, because we know what's gonna happen. We know what's gonna happen. It's just too much money. It just the story writes itself.
Ryan, my friend. Look, you can't go. You can't look over past Tony Ferguson. That guy's freaking monster.
Exactly. You need to do some research on Tony Ferguson.
I have some fear. You guys were talking about Cowboy Donald Cerrone beating Conor McGregor, and I knew he was going to get squashed. So guess what?
I did not say that.
Ferguson's going to get killed. Ferguson's going to lose in the first round, guys. Regardless of this is happening.
First round.
If you watch Tony Ferguson's past few fights, regardless of the injury or not, he's very dangerous off his back. He scrambles from the bottom. He could get if you take him down, he'll scramble out of that.
One mistake and Khabib will kill him. It'll be a killing on live television. I don't even know why we're doing this match. Let's just end the match and let's get to Khabib versus McGregor too. Or
Ryan, you got to stop smoking crack cocaine, dude. This fight you got to look forward to.
Hey, man, I'm not smoking more than the people who created the coronavirus.
Look, we're not going to. Okay, this fight is cursed, and we've had like 4 or 5 tries to make this happen, and we're not going to let a fucking coronavirus even screw this up, okay, man? Because
this is the reason why. Because God knows that this matchup is done in the first round. God was like, I'm bringing a global pandemic. Here's
what we need to do. There needs to be RKJ needs to pay if Khabib loses this fight. He needs to do something on this podcast if Khabib. I don't know. We'll come up with something. The 3 of us will come up with something. You clearly don't understand.
I had some ideas in the past, and we could probably use those.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll come up with something. We have a lot of time to think.
You have to do what in the past, Jesse? What did you do?
So I had some ideas in the past, and we could possibly do that.
What type of weird?
Oh, no. We're going to come. Eric, Jesse, and I are going to come up with some ideas for you to pay if Tony Ferguson beats Khabib because you're so 100% behind Khabib.
Tony Ferguson is Khabib's toughest opponent yet.
Yeah.
And
he's better than Conor McGregor.
I'll say this: if Khabib won this fight, I would say that he would not come out the same. I think that he would come out really completely messed up. Because every Ferguson fight that anybody has ever gotten into the face of Ferguson, they don't come out the same.
This man wrestles bears.
I know that, Brian. I know that, Ryan. But at the same time, Khabib may win this one, but he's not going to come out the same. He's not going to come out looking.
He's going to most likely win by decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the worst case scenario. I mean,
decision might go.
No, this is a statement fight for Khabib. He knows he's got to face McGregor too. He knows he's coming. He knows it's coming later on this year.
He would rather fight Gaethje.
He's Ferguson as a statement.
He'd rather fight Gaethje, and everybody's been wanting Gaethje after the Ferguson fight.
Did you remember?
Gaethje is.
That's because you don't know. You don't know who these guys are. That's why.
Guess what? The casual MMA fan does not know who this Gaethje is. Who the Gaethje is he? Nobody knows who he is. The fact of the matter is this. Khabib versus McGregor 2 is happening this year, regardless if there's a global pandemic or the tribulation period happens.
I gotta take you under my wing, damn it.
Yeah, we need to teach you. We need to show you some fights. We need to show you some fights.
I'm gonna have to strap you down in a damn chair.
I'm 1-0 against you guys.
Make you watch these fights.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You know what this sounds like? This sounds like this podcast needs to end because RKJ is going insane over there, quarantined in his room. Okay. But so long story short, we'll see what happens with Khabib and Tony Ferguson. At least the three of us want to see it. RKJ's on a whole other planet there, not wanting to watch this fight. I'm telling you, you're gonna like that fight more than you like McGregor and Khabib. Trust me. When it does happen, whenever it does happen. But so yeah, MMA's canceled. Right, we're gonna have WrestleMania. Plenty to talk about in the future. So I'm glad we could get this podcast done, guys, because obviously it's been a crazy week or whatever it's been since we last recorded. I think we recorded the night before all this went down. So it was we were
talk about it, and I said, yeah, look, we're gonna talk about this.
Well, because nothing happened.
And then Rudy Gobert decided to touch all the damn microphones.
Yeah. He touched up Spider Mitchell, man. I mean, everybody hated Gobert right now. They told him to go back to France. They told him to get his ass back to France, wherever he belongs.
League in 2-3 years, honestly, because the amount of money he's costing all these leagues as a result of him touching those, getting the coronavirus.
He shut down the whole damn NBA, the whole damn season.
He's the defensive player of the decade.
Yeah.
He shut down the whole league with the coronavirus. Oh my God.
It's pretty crazy.
How's he feeling right now? Is he feeling fine, or is he feeling?
I saw Instagram with him in the gym, so I guess he's feeling better. But apparently, him and Donovan Mitchell don't have a good relationship right now, as they should not, because rumors has it that he was being careless, joking around with the players in the locker room.
Well, he was touching their stuff. He was touching up their stuff.
So you expect like an ass whooping from him, afterwards.
It'd be hard to whoop his ass. He's like 7'2", 260 pounds.
I'm pretty sure he would have to go get somebody to whoop his ass. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he'd get Kevin Durant or somebody to go whoop his ass. Or
Kevin Durant's the worst example ever. That's the worst example.
What, Joel Embiid?
Yeah, that's better.
Karl Anthony Towns.
Tony Ferguson. That's who she.
Tony Ferguson, yes.
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson is the type of guy who beat up coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Calm down.
Iris would be scared of him.
Damn, you guys are putting too much respect on this guy's name.
Yeah, you just don't know, man.
There's no choice.
I'm gonna personally send these comments to Tony Ferguson, and he might literally drive over to your house. Yeah. He trains in Oxnard, California.
Do whatever he wants to do.
You definitely don't want Ferguson knocking on your door.
That is a scary man.
Give him the coronavirus.
The virus is even scared.
The virus will come to him.
No,
bro, that's not you put the coronavirus and Tony Ferguson in the cage. Tony Ferguson knocking out the coronavirus in the second round.
I will
we found the cure. Tony Ferguson.
That'll make any person want to get the hell out of this house.
Tony Ferguson. We found the cure. Tony Ferguson would freaking annihilate the coronavirus. We found the cure.
He absolutely would. All right. I'm putting an end to this podcast. We could be arguing about Tony Ferguson all night.
And then public service announcement real quick. Y'all need to make sure y'all washing your hands, okay? Don't be coming out of the bathroom with Cocoa Puff hands, okay? Make sure you use some warm soap, okay? Water, okay? All right? Make sure you don't touch your eyes or your face or your mouth. Make sure.
I have like 10 times on the podcast.
It's in my house.
That's okay. We've all washed our hands before. I took a shower and I smell fresh and I look fresh. So make sure clean.
Clean.
I know some of you guys want to go out on that hot date with that chick, but just wait a little bit, okay? Do some Skype calls or something. Do something because social distancing matters. 6 feet away, guys.
Tinder's waiting.
6 feet.
Tinder's waiting.
6 feet, man.
Hey, man, look, if you had a hazmat suit, I mean, you could do it.
Yeah.
You can pull it off.
Hey, man, that's the time to use condoms, okay? I heard there might be another coronavirus boom, just like the baby boom.
Oh, it's already happening.
It's happening.
I think condoms are starting to run low. I heard that yesterday.
Yep.
Condoms are running low?
Yep.
Well, because everybody has nothing to do.
Anybody got any extra gloves? I'm just saying.
I don't think they use gloves. They're going to go raw.
Speaking of which, if somebody has paper towels, can you please tweet me at RKJ Man? I will buy some paper towels.
Nobody's giving you paper towels. Everybody needs them.
Toilet paper. Some TP.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I will do it. We're getting up early in the morning. I'm more excited about getting toilet paper or paper towels than the latest plot on Wrestle with the Plot on Reddit. That's what I'm more excited with right now. I'm more excited about that right now, about getting up and getting that in the morning. That's important right now.
I mean, at this point, I'm ready to create a TikTok account and start doing random stuff. I'm so damn bored out of my.
Yeah, my girlfriend's dabbling in TikTok. It's not good. It's not good. It's literally I see her dancing in the corner with the phone, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I just game and work out. That's all I do. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been
I'm
doing.
gonna buy a hazmat suit online, and as soon as I get it, I'm gonna be messing around.
All right, it's time to end this podcast.
Social distance, Jesse. Do your part.
Jesse, I'm just gonna text Jesse out of the
Do
thing
your
real quick.
part, Jesse. Damn it. Spreading the coronavirus disease.
Hey, if we have hazmat suits, we can't technically spread.
It. Yeah.
Can't spread it or get sick. So
Let's just get a mask.
Yeah, let's all just put spacesuits on. And go out.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, RKJ, take it away.
Raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals. F coronavirus.
It's the Sauce, Alexander, and you're watching the Ring General Podcast. Turn this man around, subscribe, like, and comment.
But raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.
That's right.